Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Tabletop RPG Junction. My name is Jordan, and this is the Jocular Junction. This is not a special, but an unspecial, not just a regular episode, but pre-recorded, as I have some game stuff that I'm hopefully going to do in the morning. So we're going to record this on Friday night, and you guys can watch it tomorrow. It's a lot of crappy Wizards of the Coast news. And that's what we're going to do. But happy September, everybody. And here we are. As always, you can catch this show live Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. on YouTube. You can also leave me a message using the Google Forum link that is in the description down below. And I want to say thank you again to all of my patrons for supporting the channel and for the members of this channel. So if you want to become a member, you can click the join button. And if you want to become a patron, you can go over to patreon.com/Jordan with a PH in the middle. Let's dive into some news. So we've always kind of been like, what is AI going to be a part of Wizards of the Coast Dungeons and Dragons? And it always kind of felt like people were trying to call them out on AI and things like that. And that's why we had AI art. And they're like, oh, we're very against AI art. And AI dungeon masters. Well, we really like the fact that dungeon masters, we love our dungeon masters. They make the game great. They do all this other stuff. But then Chris Cox, the CEO of Hasbro/Wizards of the Coast, was talking to shareholders that they are all about using artificial intelligence in Dungeons and Dragons, and they think it's the future of D&D. And I don't agree with that, but I also can't blame them from a company, because a while ago it was blockchain was the big fancy word, and all these businesses were just like, how do we incorporate the block? But are you doing blockchain? Are you doing NFTs kind of a thing? And even though 90% of people were like, I don't really know what to do with that, it was the big buzzword with all the corporations. And so now the big buzzword is artificial intelligence. So it makes sense that he's saying out loud, yes, we are incorporating AI, but it goes a step further where he says that he's actively using it in his game through the avenue of ChatGPT. And it's just kind of interesting, because if they can incorporate ChatGPT into D&D Beyond, there's already a ton of people out there that have already experimented with using ChatGPT to generate adventures for them. And if people just want to play a simple adventure, I think they could do that. And it becomes a very video gamey experience. But it is like a what's the Diablo where they're generated on the fly kind of a thing? I'm thinking of the game type where you're procedurally generated. And so we're going to have a procedurally generated campaign brought to us by ChatGPT. And it might work, it might not. It will definitely not take out the human element, but I think it will get a lot more people playing D&D when dungeon masters are not available. And I could see Wizards of the Coast looking at this and saying, our bottleneck is the people running the game. If we can just bypass that bottleneck, more and more people will play. Because how many people loved playing Baldur's Gate 3 that don't actually play in a home game, because it's hard to find people in a home game, and they aren't looking at making Dungeons and Dragons a game that is board gamey. They want to make it into a franchise of people subscribing online. And if part of the service that they can offer is artificial intelligence, they're going to do that. And it was kind of a obvious, but it was weird. It was weird to hear them say it out loud, and it was kind of sad. And a lot of people are up in arms about it. You can't change the decisions of money, people, but you can change the decisions of you. And so if you don't want to support that, go buy a game that you can play at your table. And yeah. Here's the article that was on N-World. Hasbro talks about AI usage. And so they say they're already using it in their not in their games, but in their work, which totally makes sense to me because I know a couple people that were experimenting with ChatGPT, and they're just like, I need like 15 NPCs that you find in a village of 100 people, and it would just spit out 15 NPCs, and you can cherry pick the ones you want. You can modify it. It's like a great springboard of inspiration. But it's also weird because it's built on this entire foundation of stealing other people's work. If you acknowledge that or believe that. Same with Midjourney, like all of these artists, like it wouldn't be able to do the things that it does unless it could learn from all of this other stuff without actually paying any of those people. And we're not going to see a resolution on things like AI until somebody big gets angry, like a Disney, and then Disney will sue and it will go through the courts, and then there will be something established. And that's the only thing I can think of, because you can have all these small little people who are like, I wrote a book, or I wrote a play, or I did a painting, and they're just kind of shrug their shoulders like, come at us. But until somebody with big chomps comes at them, then we'll see. And that's when the standard will be set, and it's going to take a while. But it's not art. It's the artificial intelligence dungeon master, which is what they were like, oh yeah, no, we love our dungeon masters. And I'm sure they do. But if they can bypass that bottleneck, which is kind of what they want to do. It made me think of Dan Dillon. Dan Dillon used to work for Wizards of the Coast. He was one of the people that was in the layoffs in or December of like 2 years ago, last year. I can't remember how long ago it was. He has since found another job. He's doing great. And he has nothing bad to say about his employees. But it was funny. I did think about this tweet that he put out. And so I wanted to bring this up. And he made this on August 23rd. And it's like, well, there it is. D&D is hiring a game designer 8 months after the layoff. Was it worth it, you soulless effing cowards? Did you save enough money? And then there's a pressing question. Would you go back? And he said, no, I'm not. I can't trust them not to cut me loose again, to pad a quarterly balance sheet, or because some VP doesn't like that I don't suck AI's dick or whatever else. So I think that they've been talking about this for a long time, and there are people on the team who are against the incorporation of AI because you're taking out the human element that makes Dungeons and Dragons feel awesome and human and great. So yeah, it's just really interesting. But it is kind of funny that they're okay with AI in this aspect, but they're not okay with it in art. And I don't know if that's just the backlash that they got, but I really wonder if they're going to change their policy on the art later on. We'll see. And that kind of leads me into this discussion that I wanted to talk about, where I think a lot of us, yes, RPGs are a game. It's in the title, it's a role-playing game. But a lot of us, at least me and my friends, we really kind of view it as an art. And so when you're saying, like, I want to replace dungeon masters with computers, with AI, it hits harder for the dungeon masters who are like, but I worked so hard and I created this and I love it. And I feel such a creative fulfillment when I make this game and run it and improvise on the fly and things like that. And so it's this fun activity that is both parts game and creative outlet. And it asks the bigger question, like, are RPGs art? And I would say, yes, they are. I think it's a big culmination. Like, it's the reason that a Mothership, and you pick it up and you flip through Mothership, the game, and it's got a completely different vibe than Dungeons and Dragons, or I don't know, all these other ones that are out there, like Morkborg and Freelancer and stuff like that. And so Freelancer, that's a board game. Scratch that, reverse it. But, I think you understand what I'm saying is, like, I feel like the majority of the people who are very entrenched in RPGs view it as a creative, awesome process. And Wizards of the Coast views it as a brand for profit, like an avenue to get profit. And so they're not thinking of it as this like artistic expression that the rest of us do. They're like, how many more chunks of plastic can we produce so that people will give us their money? Or how many more options can we put on our VTT so that people sign up for a monthly subscription? Obviously I have my feelings about it, but I think I want to put that into perspective. Like, they are in a way like soulless vampires, and that's how they're viewing RPGs, which is very different than I think how the rest of us view RPGs. Couple of things about this next section. World Builder Bob, he had a video on Thursday, and he made an observation that during the D&D Direct, they showed all of the partners, and the Dungeon Dudes were on there, Kobold Press, is it Griffin Saddlebag? There's a couple others that, like, MCDM was another big one. They had all these people that are there, like, we're going to put all of these cool people in there that we're partnering with, but they didn't put Darington Press or Critical Role. And it's kind of interesting because Critical Role is Critical Role. I think that they would very much want to put that there. And the Blood Hunter is still in their system. Not that it would magically go away, but I don't know how I feel about that. He was like, is it a big conspiracy? Probably not. But it made me think of Matt Colville, who was saying something similar in the vein of people not wanting to work with Wizards of the Coast, is that it's very telling that Larian Studios won't work with WotC anymore. Like, after, I mean, that is such a big game, and they could have probably went to Hasbro and say, write us a check for any amount that we tell you, and we will give you a sequel or something else that will keep all of the sales driving for Baldur's Gate 3. And instead, they just opted to be like, no, thank you. And who knows what they were offered and they said no thank you to, but like, I really feel like they could have set their own price for that, because it was just so popular and they did such a good job for it that Matt Colville said on the podcast, it is very telling that Larian Studios won't work with WotC anymore. And not that Critical Role is not working with WotC anymore, but they're coming up with their own game. They're trying to do a bunch of other stuff. I would be very surprised if this 2024 rule transition, they transition out of 5e for a little bit. So kind of interesting. If you did a pre-order for the 2024 rule books of Dungeons & Dragons, they might be canceled. So you should go check that. Apparently there is a pre-order problem with PayPal. So if you use PayPal to basically pre-order all of this bundle, magically it's getting canceled. They're not, well, I guess they are sure why. They're figuring it out at this moment. But Latia, who is the D&D community manager, was like, hey, there's a problem with this. There's a big thread on D&D Beyond about like, why was this canceled for me? Like, I paid for it, blah, blah, blah. So if this is more of a PSA, like, accidents happen. I don't know what's going on. I didn't pre-order it. And I think but if you did and you use PayPal, you should go check the status of your order and make sure that it is working. The 20-Sided Tavern. So this is a live D&D show in New York on Broadway. And the reason I bring it up is a friend of mine was able to go see it, and he said it was a lot of fun. And it's one of those where they're actively using the D&D brand. They're not just playing role-playing games live. Like, they're playing Dungeons and Dragons. Like, and you can see from the photo on the screen here, there's a big projector behind him and it says Waterdeep. Like, they're playing in the realms. So it's got a spotlight on it because it's like sanctioned content that's like on Broadway and like fancy actors and improvised people. And my friend who saw it, he had a great time. He said it was really fun. I wonder if they're I don't know if they're just trying to do something new. I don't know how expensive it is to put this on, but they're going to have guest players show up. So Felicia Day, Abria, and Erica Ishii from Dropout, they're going to be guests. I guess they're playing. They're not running a game. Like, I would think Abria is going to run a game, but I guess they're going to be guests. And so they got, no offense to Abria and Erica, but they got Felicia, who I feel like is a real celebrity, and the other ones where I'm like, I feel like you're nerd celebrities. Like, there are people that are just like, oh, wow, like, I want to work with you. That's so cool. But that definition is changing a lot because TV and streaming are changing. And so everyone's kind of like, oh, are you a celebrity? Like, what movies have you been in? Well, none, but I'm here like 5 days a week doing this streaming show. But like, is it LA streaming or is it streaming from your home? Like what Jordan does right now? It's kind of interesting, but arguably because of Critical Role, like they could have Critical Role on here and it would be huge, I imagine. And they didn't get Critical Role, but they got these guys. So I love Felicia Day. She's one of my favorite people. I think this would be really fun to go see, but I will not be able to go September 19th to the 24th, which would be when Felicia Day is going to be the guest player. So sad for me. Just I can't fly to New York on a whim anymore, guys. It's really hard. I kind of changed crowdfunding and deals to... I changed crowdfunding section of the show to crowdfunding and deals because I wanted to talk about all of the things of like creation and stuff. And so that kind of goes into the first one is Nave 2E has an adventure jam. So you should go to the link down below and you can join the jam, but also it's really fun to follow these because afterwards you can view all of them and you can get a lot of really cool adventures. And oftentimes they're free. And I should check if this one is free. Submissions must be priced. Ensure your substitute. Oh, free download or play what you want. Yeah, so these will all be free to download or pay what you want when they're done. So if you want to peruse a bunch of fun Nave 2 adventures, and there's going to be like a voting session and stuff, the deadline is October 5th. I think this should be really exciting to do. So be sure to check out the Nave 2E Adventure Jam hosted by Ben Milton / of Questing Beast. Going to be really, really cool. The other 3 links I have here there are 3 Humble Bundles that might be interested in people who are of the tabletop RPG persuasion. So the first of all is Renegade Game Studios has Transformers the role-playing game. And this is a 2D12 system, I believe. There's a lot more out for this than I thought. Oh, maybe not. Maybe it's... Well, a lot of these are PDFs. Sorry, all of these are PDFs, but I was looking at some of them, and I guess they're adventures, like A Beacon of Hope and Enigma of Combination. So if you are a fan of Transformers... Wizards of the Coast Hasbro owns Transformers, but they licensed out this game to Renegade for Renegade to make. And I hear it's pretty good. Like it's got, and it's balanced with the G.I. Joe one. So you can kind of like mix and match and stuff, I guess, if you wanted to. This, I don't know anything about it. I'm not the biggest Transformers fan, but I wanted to bring it to your attention because it's $40 for 15 items, but it looks like 5 of those items are physical items that you will get mailed to you. So, there you go. Check it out. The other one is a $25 for 46 PDFs called The Lost Works of Gygax. So these are a bunch of Gary Gygax stuff that he made. Wondering if this is after TSR or something. It's kind of interesting. I'm not really sure a lot of these, but if you're interested in collecting older works, it's a lot. It's a lot of PDFs, a lot of really cool retro stuff for your OSR fun, for $25. And then last but not least, I know that they're making a Star Trek Adventures 2nd edition. Pretty sure that Mo Diffius is working on that, but, first edition is still really great. And if you want a bunch of PDFs to source for information on your Star Trek game, this is $25 for 36 PDFs. And I posted a couple of these before. Like I own the Lower Decks campaign guide and I own the core book. And then I have all of these PDFs from a previous Humble Bundle. So I have been wanting to run, I'm a big Star Trek nerd, if you guys don't know, and I have been wanting to run a Star Trek game for a long time. I do have some other Star Trek nerdy friends that I might convince into that, but it's always coming down to time. I just have lots and lots of games I want to run, but I don't have enough time, and that is the problem we always had. All three of those are affiliate links down below, so please check those out and use those affiliate links if you would if you are so interested, because a little bit comes back my way and it helps me keep the lights on over here. So, Modular D6 is still out on itch. This is my D6 RPG that I have created. These are kind of like preliminary early alpha rules that you can peruse. And I would encourage you to do so. I actually had somebody contact me and they wrote me a full 2 pages of just like first their thoughts, what they liked, what they didn't like, and then little like typos and stuff that they found throughout. And it was super helpful and nice. And I was like, that's really cool. I should build another Google's forum or something for people to leave some feedback on that. But yeah, I would be curious to hear what you think if you're interested in that D6 RPG that I wrote. And it's good to get feedback like that because it kind of re-energizes me to work on it further. So I think tonight, when I'm done cleaning my basement, I'm going to sit down and work on some modular D6. I had an interesting epiphany the other day, and I need to play Shadowdark, but I feel that 5e Dungeons & Dragons doesn't capture what Ravenloft is supposed to be for me. And that's not just like high lethality, but it's also just like I never feel scared in Dungeons and Dragons when I'm a player. And not scared in the sense of like, wow, you're talking about spiders and I am really scared of spiders, but like there's a dread there of like, I don't know what's around the corner and like how do we get out of this? Like we are in the biggest of predicaments. How do we get out of this? And it got me thinking of like, I've been wanting to run Ravenloft for a while, or Curse of Strahd, or whatever version of it, but I just haven't done it. And so this October, I'm wondering if I can convince some people to do it, but using Shadowdark. Now, I haven't ran Shadowdark yet. It's 5e adjacent, so I really feel like I could run it fine, and I'll read through the rules. I own the book. But I was wondering what other people thought of this, and maybe this is just a thought experiment for right now, and I will think about it later. But the idea of, or make a video on it later is kind of what I was thinking. But like the idea of like, hey, this October, run Ravenloft, but use Shadowdark. I think that could be like really good. And there's a lot of people out there that have turned Curse of Strahd or the original Ravenloft module into like a 1 or 2 session module. And I think that's what I want to do as well, is like, hey guys, I want to use Shadowdark so that it's a little like gritty and like not everybody has dark vision and things like that. And then I want Strahd to be scary. So that is kind of my thought. I bet other people will have that thought too. It's not like it's totally original, but it just feels like a good match made in heaven. My Plaingia game is still on hiatus just because everybody's so busy doing other things that we will not be able to meet again until October. But Dungeon Crawl Classics Dying Earth has been successfully meeting every week, and that's been awesome. What's interesting, though, is I was like, hey, guys, I want to run through these modules. And they're like, oh, okay. They have gone so far away from the module that they're just kind of like, well, I want to go this way. And I'm like, wow, okay, this is turning into like a real game, not just like multitude of one-shots with the same characters. So last time, they were so adamant about not following the adventure that I laid out that I grabbed another adventure off of my shelf that I was familiar with, and I ran that. And I was like, okay, this is my backup. So for this week's game, I'm going to prep a couple of other like little scenarios, and I've reworked their entire backstory to be, you're working for this great magician, and he's going to ask favors of you to do X, Y, and Z, and we'll see where that takes them. And I'll still be able to incorporate things like the adventures that I want. I'm still going to borrow those. But also, as I'm reading these Dying Earth adventures, a lot of them are just like, if your players are in a random town, this is a good adventure for that random town that they stumbled upon. Or are they fleeing from an angry mob because they upset a kingdom? Well, the new place that they arrive at could be this weird thing, which is kind of fitting of the books. Like, Kugel is such a funny, stupid character. I love it to death. But he gets into so many shenanigans, and then when he arrives at a new place, he's always like, I am the most important person in the world, and he basically sets himself up for trouble again. So the adventures are cleverly written to assist with things like that. But I think I'm going to rework some of the stuff and have an overarching. There's going to be a big magician up top that's kind of pulling the strings, and we'll see where they go. That'll help them have more stake in the adventures that we're running. And I think also just continuity wise, it'll connect a lot more and they'll have a lot more fun. But they're level 3 now, and I'm very excited for them to be working on some of the future things that we're going to be doing. Should be a lot of fun. Again, DCC, you get the right players, and it's so funny. And I think they're starting to figure out their characters. The one player who's playing a magician is really enjoying it. Now that they've like kind of solidified and figured out how it works with the double D4s, D6s dice roll, they're doing it's really good. They're doing a good job. So, and we're having a lot of fun. So, hey everybody, it was a fun pre-recorded show. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your likes and subscribes and comments down below. I do read all of the comments, so I really appreciate you guys that reach out. But don't be a dick, because those get auto-filtered. Yeah. And don't be religious, because those also get auto-filtered. But yeah, that's all I've got for today. What was your favorite story of the day? Let me know. Are you playing Dungeon Crawl Classics Dying Earth? Speaking of that, I need to make some Dying Earth videos on the new adventures that I've actually gotten finished with, because that's been a fun little series to just talk about certain aspects of that. Yeah, I'm getting back in the saddle with making videos. I should be new stuff coming out soon, but thank you guys again for hanging out and supporting me and being awesome. And I will see you guys all in the next video.